Yep. Over here, they're not going to see. Now you're good. Laura, where's the speaker?
The speaker is...
I thought her...
New dress.
Yeah, I know. I saw her before.
I think she went to the bathroom.
Oh, okay. Thanks. אני יכול להתחיל לפחות שכרגע הם רואים רק את הברס, שיראו כאילו התקהלות וזה, שאנשים פה...
Never mind. Okay, forget it. Marcella, forget it. So. Ladies, we would like to start. Oh, dear. Okay. Hi, everyone. Oh, thank you so much. Wonderful. So I have this little microphone here. My name is Sveta. I'm responsible for the English speakers events in the line of... Yeah, please, if you could shut off your phones, everyone, that would be wonderful. Perfect, thank you. So I'm the head of the English Speakers Committee. I put together English Speakers events with help of wonderful, wonderful partners like Laura here. And on this note, I want to thank Laura for having us. So I just want to say a few words about the Lion of Judah and who we are. But before that, we always start with having our remaining hostages in our hearts, our soldiers who are protecting us and actually giving us the possibility to have this kind of an event in our daily lives. The recovering soldiers, may they all be blessed with a good life and full recovery. Okay, I'm back. So the Lions of Judah. So the Lions of Judah is actually part, we're Lion of Judah Israel, and we're part of a larger group all around the world of Jewish women, philanthropic women, that basically make the world a better place. In America, it's under the Federation, and the Sochnut HaYehudit, the Jewish agency, is the larger umbrella for all of us. So each state reports a little bit differently. They have a little different approach and set of rules, but overall we're one group of about 18,000 women across the world, talking about UK and Canada and Mexico and help me, Madrid as well, across the world. So we're a tiny little drop of about 150 women here in Israel in that whole amazing group. And we deal with women's philanthropy, empowering women and girls in Israel. And the way that we do it is that we handpick every 2 years a selection of projects that fit a certain topic that we choose and vote on. We're a democratic kind of organization. We have one professional, therefore anything that's done is done by us as whoever is interested to be active. And today we have, by the way, with us two guests who are part of one of our projects that we support now over a while, that's called Knafayim, Wings. And they're going to speak just a little bit so you get a taste of the personal impact that is experienced across the country. So that's the Lions of Judah. And I want to invite Sarah, who is our head, and just to say a few words. Just to say hello.
Thank you for coming. Thank you, Laura, for your heart, big heart and hospitality. Thank you, Sveta, for handling all this beautiful group of English speakers. We cannot start without saying Baruch Hashem, that Idan Alexander, the grandchild of our member, precious member, Varda Ben Baruch, just yesterday came back to his mother, his parents, and his grandparents. So, as Varda said, שהחיינו וקיימנו והגיענו לזמן הזה, Amen, and amen for all the rest to come. Thank you, Sveta, for telling about us. We are doing beautiful things, important and meaningful things here with Lions of Judah Israel. We say hello to our sisters and friends abroad. Thank you for joining us. And toda rabba also for our honored guest that is going to speak, Juan, right? And toda rabba for you from Knafayim, our project Knafayim, and Chava Lifshin, that she is in charge from Lions of Judah on this project. So thank you very much and have a very nice morning.
Thank you so much, Sarah. So we're going to just hear for a few moments about our project, please. What do I do?
I don't know.
It's a microphone. You just speak in it.
Speak.
So these two beautiful girls came up. It's called Chayalot Bodidot. I don't like the name very much because it's called lonely girls, lonely soldiers, and I don't think they're lonely. They left their homes, but here in Israel, they get the most, the most love that can be in the army. And what we do in the Lions with this project, we help them when they finish the army. And then they have to, they'll tell you what they have. They get out, and so they have, maybe some of them they have family, some they don't have families. So when they get out from the army, where do they go? What they do? Who can help him? Who can tell him how is Israel outside the army? Because when they are in the army, they are embraced, and they do beautiful work. They do in the army very dangerous things. And then they go out, and we come in. And now they tell you about what they got from us, what they got from Knafayim, and where they are now.
Okay. Hello, ladies. How you guys doing? Good? Okay, great. Okay, I'm just going to start. Stand up? All right. All right. Okay. Why don't you stand up with Gabby? Okay, so I'm just going to start by giving you guys a little bit of background, okay? A little bit about who I am, where I'm from, why I came here, and then I will go from there, okay? So my name is Gal. I am 21 years old. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland. Is that anybody? Oh, you're from Baltimore? And then I moved to Boca Raton. So I made Aliyah from Boca in 2022, December 2022. And by May, I was already in the army, drafted, chayelet, lekol davar. And I finished my service about a week ago. Thank you. Okay, so Knafayim. I honestly have to say that being in the army was probably the best decision I've ever made in my entire life. No regrets whatsoever. And it was scary. It was so challenging and so foreign, but I did it and it was awesome. And I have to say, getting out of the army is 10 times harder than any gun I've ever shot, any course I've ever done, any basic training, all of that, because when you're in basic training and when you're doing all these things, you're super in it and it's super intense and you're going through it with a million other people, and it's not just about you're not just a lone soldier when you're in the army. You're experiencing with everybody else. And yes, when you go home on the weekends, it's different and it's hard and you're navigating things. But at the end of the day, most of your time is spent with girls who are experiencing the same thing as you. And when you break out of that cycle and you break out of that routine, it's just the most scariest, it feels like you have a million opportunities and you have a million things that you don't know. And I can't imagine that anybody in my age at home is thinking about, arnona and life insurance. So, Knafayim, when about a month before my shihur, about a month before my release, I got called to something called Kenes Mishacherim, which is a week, that's Yomiyot. So I was in a closed base, which means I was getting out only on the weekends. So when I came to this Kenes Mishacherim, I was going home every day. So I was sleeping at home every day. I was waking up in the morning. I was seeing a bunch of people that I haven't seen in so long. And we were just learning about what it means to be a citizen here. Because most of people that come from a different country, we come with some type of tochni that will give us some type of program, which will give us, 3 to 6 months preparation, getting to know the people you're going to live with for the next 2 years. And as much as that helped, you really come here and you immediately get to know yourself as a soldier and not so much as a citizen, and you don't really get to build a life outside of the army. And so when I came to this Kenes Mishacherim, the first thing they told me to do was get health insurance. And for that, I'm health insured. I wouldn't have gotten health insurance if it wasn't for Knafayim. I just want you guys to know. I would not have known anything. Okay? And being a lone soldier is such a niche topic, and it's so specific, and almost nobody, except for the people that are going through it and people that know what you're going through, nobody knows, nobody really understands ad sof, that half of your house is in this country and your other half is with your family at home, and you're half the time on base and you're half the time at home, and you have to figure out what you're going to do for groceries, and you don't really know what you're going to do for shishi, and she invited you to her house but you don't have a car, and this and that, and it's just such a niche community that people really don't understand ad sof, until the end. And when I came to Knafayim and the Kenes Mishacherim, they were like, guys, don't worry, we get it. It's okay. It's okay to not know what you're going to do. It's okay to not have a solid brick plan about what you're going to do outside of the army, because that's what it's about. That's what the next step is about. Most people that come to draft from other places, that leave their homes, which is already in and of itself such an insane thing to do, to leave your home, to be something, to be a part of something bigger, something that you're so passionate about. It's super scary, but that's the first step. The next step is finishing and learning what you want to take from that, and what you want the next the next stage of your life to be. And so I was super scared, and I didn't cry to my mom like I've cried to her when I was realizing that my service was coming to an end, because it's something I took pride in. I stood in front, it was not the first time I'm talking in front of an audience where it was such an honor for me to be like, yes, I'm a lone soldier. It was my entire identity. And so when that's not taken away from you, but when it ends overnight, it's just such a scary foreign feeling.
So how long do you have the support for?
Okay, so like this. In the Kenes Mishacherim, I was given Yoetzet Kalkalit, which is a financial advisor, and I was given a job advisor, and I was given an opportunity to take a test. It's like a psychological evaluation, and from there I was able to get a bunch of different jobs that was fitted for me. And just that guidance and that support from behind, and just knowing that you know that there are people that know what you're going through. You know that there are people that have had a million lone soldiers that have felt the same exact thing and that know exactly how to support you and exactly what you need. And not only that, it's such a tight-knit community. They just understand. Like, oh yeah, okay, so I'm gonna tell you guys. So now that I'm out of the Army, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if I'm going to go home. I don't know if I'm going to, stay here. I don't know if I want to travel. I'm sure many of you have heard of the Tiyul HaGadol. And so what Knafayim does is really just gives me guidance and those options to make a fully educated decision about really what I want to do and what's the best for me. And they just lay out like this. They just lay out anything you want to do, what you think is right for you. They really work with you. It's not like, you don't feel like you're just being pushed into this new life overnight. And
So how long is this count?
up to years after your service. Up to years after your service.
Sorry,
That's all right.
A few minutes left.
Bakasha, Catherine.
Sure.
Stand up.
So hello everyone, my name is Catherine. I did not join the army straight after school. I actually studied 2 degrees first in my country in South Africa, and then I came to the army, which is why, I'm married now, please God, expecting a family, and Confime is still very relevant even to people like me. And why is that? During the army, I served in the IDF spokesperson's unit, which was a fantastic place where we handled the PR of the army, different tiulim that people did, and all sorts of publicity for the army. However, after the 7th of October, we had a new job, which was collecting all the photos and videos of what actually happened. Yes. And that entailed me sitting for like 15 hours a day, watching every single video. It was very triggering, it was very difficult psychologically, and I have no family in Israel, and we saw things that we're not allowed to say till today, and there's things I couldn't tell my family. For example, on 7th of October, I called my family. I said, everything is fine here, don't worry. Don't turn on the television. And so it was very difficult for me, because even though I was someone who was very organized, I had a degree, I worked previously, I was completely thrown off by what had happened in the war. And so as I came towards the end of my service, as Gal said, you're no longer going to be someone special. You're no longer going to be this Chayla Bodada, this hero who's supporting a country. You're going back to being an ordinary Israeli citizen in a time of war. So what did Confime do to me, or do for me rather? At the Kenes Mishtacharim, at the release conference, I got to speak to them about building a proper plan, building, what career would be suitable for me, what kind of advice I should receive. But they also told me about the different psychological support that they have. Because it's not like you're a soldier who's experienced something traumatic in the army. You can go back home to Israeli parents and they say, of course, I understand, it's my country too. I was also in the army. Your family abroad, they don't understand exactly what you've been through. So to have people who understand what it is to be a lone soldier, what it is to have gone through what you went through during the war, and to have all these different sessions with other soldiers, other lone soldiers who can say, yes, I was here, I saw this, or yes, I lost my friend in this battle. It was something so important and so meaningful to know that you're not alone. And to have that support after the army, because obviously in the army you have the support, they have psychologists, you have your commander. After the army, you're sitting in your apartment alone, and there's no one. But Confime, if you didn't respond to them, they would check in with you once a month. They said, hi, have you come to our session lately? Hi, we have this event, you should come talk with us. All the time they reached out and they showed that they cared. And it was something just so special to me because, sometimes when you're like a Chayla Bodada, you want to be brave. You want to be strong. I chose to come to this country. I chose to serve in the army. But they gave you a space really to just be who you are and to just find a community with other young Jewish soldiers. And I think that is one of the most remarkable things Confime does. They don't just sit back and say, oh, come to us. They actively go out and find you. And I think it's just incredible, especially nowadays. Mental health and the psychological support for soldiers, it's critical. And there's a lot of lone soldiers whose needs go unmet, and a lot of soldiers who return back to their countries, and unfortunately their lives fall apart. But Confime has ensured that not only do lone soldiers stay here, but they really do get reintegrated back into life, and that the army is not something that's held them back, but it's something that pushes them forward.
So all I want to add to this is that this is just one example of a whole bunch of different projects. Whoever is in the group that officially signed up can find that list of projects, current ones right now, and also a little bit of more information about who the Line of Judah is, Israel specifically. And you're all invited, whoever here are our guests and are not members yet, you're all invited to join us. And if anybody's interested, you can speak to Sarah, to myself, to Laura, and welcome to the Lines of Judah Israel. And now we're honored to invite Ryan Osman, our speaker.
Thank you. And thank you. Just trying to keep track of time. And if I do lose track of time, Laura, do wave me. It happens. So, first of all, thank you all for coming. I'm really surprised to see so many, especially that this is a private venue. Thank you so much, Laura, for opening your house for us, for welcoming me here. And may this be a first of many. I'm invited here to tell you my story. I did not win the Nobel Prize yet. Life is full of surprises. And I'm not unique or special in any way. Israelis or Jews around the world always tell me they are inspired by my courage. That is because we have very low standards. The sheer fact that I grew up on the other side of the borders, growing up in Lebanon, and for those who don't know me, I'm going to tell you a bit about myself in a second. The sheer fact that I grew up on the other side, and then I realized that we were intensively brainwashed. The sheer fact that I condemned Hamas as a woman, as a mother, after what I've seen on October 7th, makes me a hero in this world. And that is what I mean by we have very low standards. So I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese. My father is Sunni from Damascus, and my mom is Shia from the Bekaa Valley. For those who don't know, that is where Baalbek is. That is the stronghold of Hezbollah, not necessarily the south in Lebanon. And I grew up attending a French Catholic school. I already told you that my parents are secular, that religion was not relevant in my upbringing, because a Sunni married a Shia, and they sent us to a French Catholic school because missionary schools are the best in the Middle East. So they wanted the best education for us. And my mother is the child of the Lebanese Civil War, where the Lebanese killed each other. Not only Christians and Muslims, but also Muslims killed Muslims and Christians killed Christians. And that generation wanted nothing more to do with religion. They wanted to tolerate one another or promote tolerance and sympathy. However, the only thing they agreed on is their hatred of the Jews, the Israelis, and the Zionists. And wherever I go, it's becoming a cliche. Wherever I go, I make sure I mention the three terms because they are used interchangeably. This anti-Zionism opposed to anti-Semitism is a farce. And I grew up in that world. The first 18 years of my life was in Lebanon, but I also lived in Syria, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar, and I do know what I'm talking about. I dare say it without being labeled Islamophobic or even racist against my people. I grew up hating the Jews and the Israelis, and that was really easy because Israel occupied South Lebanon, and nobody told us why the occupiers were there. Nobody cared to share that for more than a decade, Israel did show restraint while Arafat and his gang, and all the leftists who support them from around the globe, maybe some of you remember the Lod massacre, that was committed by Japanese who killed mostly Christians who came from South America. They abused Lebanese territory and kept sending terrorists to attack Israeli civilians until the Israelis gave up on diplomacy and did create their own buffer zone, trying to push those militants, those freedom fighters, these armed factions behind the Litani River, which is exactly what Israel is trying to do now. So the south was occupied, and there were no Jews to contest whatever we were told about the Jews, because more than 800,000 Jews were uprooted from the Arab world. There is an estimation in academia, and we don't know if it's accurate, that those Jews left assets and properties behind, mounting to the size of Lebanon and Jordan combined. But they also left their memories and the graves of their ancestors behind. And they're not lamenting that. They moved on, they thrived. I hope they inspire the Palestinians. And it's illegal for us to speak with the Israelis. Embedded in the constitutions and basic laws in many Arab countries are anti-normalization laws and policies. This is why many Arab countries do not even call it Israel. It's the Zionist entity, the neighbor in the south, the occupiers, whatever, because they don't want to acknowledge by which legitimize the existence of Israel. And those countries forbid their citizens from speaking to Israelis or Zionists. This is why, as an Israeli, if you meet someone from Kuwait or Lebanon or Iraq or Algeria on holiday in Brazil or India, they will freak out once they know that you're Israeli, even if they like you after having a drink. And people don't understand that they do freak out because they're not allowed to speak to you, because they might be accused of collaborating with the Zionist entity. And they might be executed. This is a serious crime. And normally those who get executed did not necessarily collaborate with the Zionists. These are often political dissidents. So it's really handy to get rid of them that way. When I was a child, I was sitting in the back of the car with my sister Sally, and there was an announcement on the radio. And I remember my mom and dad turned pale, and my father parked the car. And they were talking about the two ladies that were about to be hung. And I did not know that one of the ladies was the mother of Nana Maria, a child our size, 6 or 5 years old, our neighbor across the street. Her mom and her aunt were accused of collaborating with the Zionist entity. Sarah Idan, some of you may know, former Miss Iraq, took a selfie a few years ago with Miss Israel. And she had to flee her country, Iraq, together with her family, because they received so many death threats, and the Iraqis mean it. What you don't know is that Sarah, and it's not so dramatic, she lives in LA, she's not suffering. Sarah is the only Iraqi whose nationality to ever be revoked, unlike Iraqis who joined ISIS. Her crime was worse than those who sold 8-year-old girls as sex slaves, those who burned a Muslim Jordanian pilot alive in a cage. A selfie with an Israeli was worse. So this is where I come from. Although it's a liberal, middle-class, educated society in progressive Lebanon, we hated the Jews to death. In 1996, we watched something on the news. And as a child, it's something that scars you, because gore was not normalized. So we saw scenes of body parts in southern Lebanon, most probably shown on Al Jazeera, but I don't really remember, saying that the Israeli Air Force deliberately targeted a UN shelter in southern Lebanon, knowing that there were more than 100 women and children. We didn't know what a blood libel is, but it's exactly the same statements you hear today. And you believe it because this is what you see. Because all the intelligent persons in your life, your parents, your teachers, the nuns in my case, the people you see on TV, the people who write in newspapers, all the intelligent ones told a consistent narrative about Israel. They all agreed. And in my mid-20s, when I wanted to take a course in Europe, I naturally chose France because I spoke French. And I landed in Strasbourg in the Jewish quarter near one of the biggest synagogues in Europe. And on the first day, I went across the street to a grocery store, and I was happy because I found all the ingredients I needed to cook and all the spices. I did not know what a kosher store is. I did not connect the dots. And while I was looking at the spices, I heard the man enter this small store, and I was thinking in the back of my head, this wasn't French. And I realized that it was Hebrew. How would I know? I've never seen a Jew. I've never seen an Israeli, not as far as I knew. I knew because I was transported in that moment back to the living room where I grew up in Lebanon when Israel occupied the south, and we had televisions with antennas you needed to adjust to get better signal. We were allowed to watch cartoons 20 minutes in the afternoon. So when we did maneuver the antenna, sometimes we would get signal from Israel. And we couldn't care less that it was biblical cartoons we watched. If a grown-up walked into the room, they would freak out because you're watching Israeli TV, and they would change the channel. Before that day, I did not know that even the language was associated with taboo in the back of my head. Because when I turned and I saw the four men with sideburns, dressed in black and white, the Jews, I had my first and last panic attack. I didn't only leave my shopping, I left my personal stuff in the trolley. And I ran out, crossed the street, without looking left and right, went up to the third floor to my bedroom and locked the door. And I did not know what a panic attack is, I just knew that I couldn't breathe. So when I washed my face, and I was telling myself to breathe, and I saw how red and sweaty I was, I felt like a fool. I was embarrassed. And I thought that was stupid, because I had to go back, collect my stuff. And I had to see the storekeeper for months, because this is where I was staying. So I decided to compose myself, to go back and lie to him, to tell him that I forgot my wallet. And that's what I did. The man had left, and I continued shopping as if nothing happened, and I went to pay. So he asked me, "Where are you from?" And I thought, now it's his turn to panic. So I told him, I come from the Middle East. And he said, where? Where from in the Middle East? Like he's insisting. So I thought, okay, I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese. And he asked me, how long have you been in Strasbourg? I told him, well, I just arrived today. And he knew that I was lying. He understood what happened. But he was pleasant. He helped me with my bags. And without knowing it, that storekeeper, that day, converted me from an enemy to an ally. He didn't mean to, but he allowed me to save face. He allowed me back into his space, which was really important. Because when I was thinking, what on earth was that for weeks? Thinking they didn't even look at you. And I'm not the fearful type. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. And I realized that it was the first time in my life to have shared the same space with a Jew, with the enemy. And for the first time in my life, I asked myself, why is the Jew my enemy? Only to realize that my entire perception of the Jews, Judaism, and Israel was shaped, formed by the one and only Hassan Nasrallah, former Secretary General of Hezbollah, who did not die of old age. So it made sense to start with him. He always spoke about Israel, always quoting Haaretz, telling us what the Jews are about, what their plans, what their intentions. So I started with him, and before reading anything complex, I stumbled on a video, black and white, back in the 80s when I was born, of him sharing, it wasn't a secret, saying that they do not acknowledge political borders, that they'd like Lebanon to become part of an extended Islamic Republic, the one in Iran. It's the Shiite version of what ISIS wanted, and I took a step back and realized I did not subscribe to this. I used to be a fan of Hezbollah because they were the only brave ones who would defy the Israelis trying to chase them out of our country, until I realized that their agenda was available to everyone. I do not support that. So I started reading, and I was filled with anger, which is not healthy. It became outrage, which is better. Anger. I was so angry, and a mentor that I met, I was so lucky to meet, Yossi Klein Halevi, helped me recover. And he told me, it's going to consume you. If you carry on, you're going to get killed sooner than you think. And I thought, old man, what does he know? Like, it's easy. You don't understand. And he sent me a book to Germany. Before the times I could imagine visiting Israel. He said, please read it. It's his memoirs. Memoirs of a Jewish extremist. And I read it, I'm thinking, Yossi, you smoked marijuana? You're a Kahanist? He was a Kahanist. He knew what he was talking about. He helped me recover. This anger I felt was because I realized that we were fools, that we were intensively brainwashed, and that every war we went to with Israel was senseless. Every life lost was lost in vain. Only had the Arabs accepted to share the land with the Jews. But this entitlement, this attitude, it's ours, it's ours. We Islamized it, it's ours forever and ever. But also, and this is something definitely known in academia, and I say it as somebody who studied Islamic studies, there is zero historical or archaeological proof that Prophet Muhammad was ever in Jerusalem. Maspikva. It's a farce. And people know it, Muslims and non-Muslims. He didn't necessarily touch the Western Wall, neither did his magic horse. And Al-Aqsa, what they call Al-Aqsa, is not the mosque referred to in the Quran, and everybody knows this. But they tend to appease the Muslims, because the Muslims, Islamists, I live in Germany, we have to be very careful. Islamists tend to throw emotional tantrums and blow themselves. This is why we adapted our messages to their ears. Nobody forgot what happened when the Danish insulted the Prophet. Nobody forgot the price Charlie Hebdo paid when Al-Qaeda mowed down, or ISIS, the Bataclan massacre, what happened in these. So we learned a lesson. Be very careful. Do not upset them. Do not provoke them. If we know all this, it doesn't make sense to me. Why are we walking on eggs, always afraid of angering them? Especially that there is no proof. You don't have claims in Jerusalem. And in academia, they know that there are so many historical gaps. What we are left with today is a narrative, a constructed narrative with certain political motivations. And we are living now, coexisting with one of the most extreme interpretations of the text. Even Khaybar, you might have heard the slogan, Khaybar, Khaybar, O Jews, the army of Muhammad will return. Islamists or extremists are really proud of how the Prophet and his army humiliated the Jews in the Arabian Peninsula in this oasis called Khaybar. But there are zero Jewish sources that this ever happened. It's a story we are told. I recovered from this anger, although you might know, and many of you serve in the army, it is not fun. And Israel is going through one of the worst wars ever, paying the highest price anyone can imagine. It's not fun. All this can be avoided. My anger transformed throughout the years into outrage. But I left the Middle East. I tried to tell everyone of the discoveries I made when I returned from France. First of all, for example, the video I watched of Hassan Nasrallah, I couldn't find when I was in Lebanon. I couldn't find when I was in Syria. So I realized how intensive censorship is. And when I say this to younger Jewish crowds, like high school students, they don't understand what censorship is in the West. I tell them that Wikipedia is banned in today's Turkey, in secular Turkey. Censorship. And that's part of how this narrative we lived with, we adopted, was constructed. So I moved back to Europe, took my son, removed him, and put him in a sterile environment, I thought, away from wars. Okay, you want to kill each other? Continue. And I was an atheist. Growing up between the Muslims and the Christians tell you the Muslims are lying, the Muslims tell you the Christians are lying. I concluded as a child, they're both lying. Or maybe in retrospect, you don't want to take sides, because they're your family members, your friends. I went to Germany, out of all places, and whoever tried to learn German, it's a pain. I never imagined that 1 million Syrians in 2015 will be told, wir schaffen das. Welcome, we will manage. And I thought that is insane, insane. Because I have to emphasize that I'm Syrian, half of my family is Syrian. The world did let the Syrian people down, and Bashar al-Assad got away with everything. He even obtained humanitarian asylum. I wanted the world to help the Syrians, but not like this, not in Germany. I lived in Syria for 4 years, and I know, for example, I was 18, men come and touch you wherever they want. And if you go to complain to the policeman, he doesn't mind doing the same. And people hate the Jews. I bought Mein Kampf in Syria for less than $1. You can buy the Protocols of the Elders of Zion for less than $1. So I knew what's coming is misogynistic and anti-Semitic. I know how I reacted that story in the grocery store in 2011. That was me. So those are coming from Syria, mostly men. And I was praying, asking, does the government have a plan? Do you understand what you're inviting into this country? Why is it so problematic in Germany? Because of the ongoing reconciliation process between the Jews and the Germans. I thought this is the most inspiring thing that I could experience. If there is an Israeli embassy in Germany and a German embassy in Israel after the Holocaust, anything's possible. If this model survives, we can replicate it. We can apply it elsewhere, adapt it. And now it's been jeopardized. So I wrote something and people said, you're an entrepreneur. Why would I publish whatever you wrote? Besides, what is the melodrama? Why are you so worried? They're just people like us. I'm like, what do you mean? I'm Syrian. So it was published by a think tank in Washington. And I'm really happy. Because now, in 2025, I always tell people, go back, go. When I warned that this will lead to an inevitable rise in the far right because people are frustrated with your naivete, I meant it. We heard in Germany the story of a gang rape on New Year's Eve in Köln, and people started thinking, wow. But then we watched something on social media, it went viral. A Syrian teenager met a Jewish teenager in Berlin, and he could identify him because he was wearing a kippah. The friend of the Jew filmed it. And the Syrian was crying, "Are you a Jew? You're a Jew. Are you a Jew?" So he took his belt off, and he was hitting the Jewish teenager with the metal buckle on his head. That sent shockwaves throughout Europe. And I was watching this and thinking, that was me. That was me. What I've done in 2011 in the grocery store was the civilized version of what this Syrian teenager did. So I sold my business and I went back to university. And I made sure to explain to my son all this. In 2018, I returned to Strasbourg. I showed my son where I lived, and I showed him the synagogue. Apropos the synagogue, I was sitting on the windowsill in this big old house I was living in, spying on the Jews for months and thinking, they seem friendly. They seem normal. Why do some women cover their hairs? They look like Muslims. I thought, okay, these are nice. The children are well behaved. The elderly are looked after. Maybe the awful ones live in Israel. And I asked my friend, what is this obsession with this building? Because down the road, families, big groups would always go there. And I told him, this is Strasbourg. There must be a different attraction in town. And he told me, that's the synagogue. This is how ignorant I was when it comes to the Jews. So I took my son back there. I wanted to tell the storekeeper how he changed my life. But this grocery store, this kosher store, became a Carrefour Express, part of a chain. But I spoke somewhere in Atlanta, I believe, and a lady had a massive smile. She said, I'm going to tell him because we are related. She was French from Strasbourg. And this storekeeper remembered this story and shared it. I always tell it, again, to youngsters, to Jews around the world, that whether you choose it or not, you are an ambassador. Wherever you go, people will judge the Jewish people, because we tend to generalize, by the way you behave. You represent them, whether you're religious or not. So let's go back to, I sold my business, go back to university, study Islamic studies from a neutral academic perspective to understand what do the Muslims want. I'm still an atheist. I go to study Jewish studies to understand what do the Jews want. Because we need to resolve the Middle East problem. It's a political conflict. We can resolve it. So when I was studying Jewish studies, I took a class with a rabbi. And it was mandatory and very basic. ABC, scratching the surface, explaining to non-Jews that nobody drinks blood over Shabbat. Let's explain what Judaism is to you. And for 3 months, I would go to this class, and it changed me. It was really upsetting, because I realized that I was Jewish. And it was embarrassing for me. I look in the mirror like, what are you talking about? What do you mean you're Jewish? I'm like, it was so strong. And I kept dismissing it. All my life, I lived in 7 countries. I had so many crazy coincidences happening, and I would always dismiss them because I'm a rational person and spirituality is beneath me. Until I had to accept what I was feeling and realize that, indeed, all these coincidences I dismissed were the pebbles Hashem used to show me the way back home. So I sat down with the rabbi who was giving us the class. He was about to retire. He's Swedish, such a character. Shaul Friberg. I told him, Shaul, listen, I'm Jewish. I'm converting an Orthodox conversion because I do believe, not if people see my knee, that they're going to be sexually aroused, but because tradition helped preserve the essence of Judaism throughout millennia. And I have the utmost respect for this tradition. And if you, Shaul, would like to be part of my journey, you're welcome. And he told me, this is not how you pitch your conversion to the rabbi. You have to beg me, I have to resist. But nobody played these games with me because they know, I know what I'm doing. It's so clear, crystal clear in my heart. Checking the time. Yes, of course, I forgot the time. 5 minutes?
No, more. What city were you in?
Heidelberg in Germany, where we are. It's a pretty town. So nobody played games. I know exactly where I'm heading. But back then, that was a few years ago, I did not understand why would Hashem show me the way back home? This is a light, and you're offered to see it. It was so clear. Things made sense. The stars aligned. And I felt an overwhelming inner peace, but also a lot of guilt. I'm not special. Why would you show me the light? I mean, if you can show me the light, you can show others the light. Because I'm a human being, and we think a little too much of ourselves, and I thought I'm going to advise Hashem, come on, show the others as well. Of course, later I understood that Hashem does show the light to everybody. It's up to you to embrace it or not, because it comes with a certain responsibility. And I was always wondering, there's nothing for free in life. This is something, now I'm 41, I learned. Nothing is for free. How do I give back when someone bestows such a gift, such a blessing upon you? What do you do? When I decided to convert, I took a long time to explain to my son, because I raised him an atheist. When I told him that I'm converting, he held my arm and said, Mom, sit down. What happened?
How old was he?
He was 14, 13, 14. An atheist. I explained to him, and he understood that it wasn't an impulsive, emotional decision. I needed him to understand, because I don't want him to question my sanity. I'm authority in his world. He understood. Nobody else needed to know, because this was my personal journey. I didn't take a day off or holiday since maybe 2018. And my son says, Mom is obsessed with the Middle East. Remember I told you we're going to solve the Middle East problem? That's what I do, day and night. I'm passionate about it. He says I'm obsessed. And it's OTT and melodrama. And I always told him, look, you don't understand, you don't speak Arabic, you did not live in the Middle East. If the Arabs could, they would eat the Jews alive. And my son would look at me horrified. How can a civilized person make such a statement? The melodrama, tone it down. On October 7th, at around 11, my son comes to my room. He knocks on the door and he says, Mom, it's almost noon. Are you sick? So I didn't respond. He walked in, he looked at me, and he saw that I'm sitting on my bed and I'm scrolling. I don't know how I looked like, but my son went out, checked the news, came back. We never spoke about it. He just looked at me. One tear rolled down his cheek, and he nodded. He understood that I wasn't making a melodramatic statement. I meant it. It was real. Look at what happened. And on October 7th, when I recovered, like all of you probably, 2 weeks, I just understood how I have to give back. I have to share with the world that I am converting to Judaism. In a meeting, and this is one of many, many, many examples, in a meeting in Manhattan, when I decided to do what I'm doing on social media, because it is a platform available for free for everybody. We need to take the mic back from the Arab world, from Al Jazeera and Qatar. Take the mic back and tell your own story. They're obsessed. They always talk about the Israelis and the Jews. Maybe it's time for the Jews to tell their own story. According to my son, I was a dinosaur on social media, which I was. I thought it's a waste of time. Until I started watching what's happening in the Arab world in the aftermath of October 7th. So in a meeting in Manhattan, men wearing a kippah, religious Jews, told me, look, they have a company. They are social media strategists, and they're going to provide me with a team. If you really want to help Israel, you need to take the Star of David off. and you should never say that you're converting to Islam, to Judaism. Because I would be more helpful, if I remain the Arab Muslim ally. And I looked at them, and I told them, you don't get it. You're missing the point. You don't get it. How is it working out for you? To make yourself smaller, to keep appeasing the world, make yourself smaller, keep your conversion a secret as if it's my dirty secret? No. I'm here, I'm shown the way back home to tell you you have a spine and it's about time you use it. Even before I decided to convert, when I developed this utmost admiration for this country, for this miracle that came to existence after the Holocaust. Like, how many more miracles do the Jews need? Someone in 1945 sitting in a death camp, if you told him 3 years from now we will establish the first Jewish state, he will think you're crazy, out of your mind. So I wore the Star of David because, to me, it reminded me of Israel. And every morning I see it in the mirror, I'm reminded that everything's possible. Now I decided to convert. There is a spiritual dimension to what I'm doing. And you want me to keep it a secret. So a lot of people disagreed. And I met them later. A lot of people, even donors. We will support you if you keep it a secret. And people, you're crazy. You're wearing a kippah. You don't understand what's happening in this world. We are at war. Either you continue appeasing those who want to slaughter you, or you say, until here, and we stop. Just like the early Zionists did. And I couldn't care less if they were religious or not. But they understood that after 2,000 years of being pushed to Babylon, to the Iberian Peninsula, to Italy, to Hamburg, to America, they understood that at a certain point, enough is enough. We're going back home. And I am this nomad who have lived in 7 different countries. And I was tired and ready to go back home, and inviting you guys as well, not you, to remind the Jews that enough is enough, especially after October 7th. I'm ending with this last sentence. After October 7th, I went on a speaking tour in the US, and I spoke at a massive shul in Boston. And I heard the comment I always hear, people appreciate me, love me, adore me, but why are you speaking to us? You're preaching to the choir. You should be speaking to the Muslims, right? What can we do? I thought, what can you do? I was at a conference with Jewish teenagers. They were over dinner. Someone was explaining to them what a challah is. Your children told me, crying, if Israel didn't exist, October 7th would have never happened. What can you do? You can teach your children your Jewish history. Start with that. I'm going to stop here. Laura, I'm stopping here. I didn't even...
A few more minutes and thank you.
I can speak for...
I know that everybody here doesn't want you to stop, but maybe some have a commitment and we don't want to keep you either, so please, English.
So, 5 more minutes and then I will stop. So, meanwhile, because I'm pretty sure this is the question I always get from the crowds, people wonder, how was my parents' reaction? My father passed away when I was 18. If he was alive, he would be my biggest supporter. My mother blocked me on October 8th. And a lot of people blocked me, including many of my intelligent Lebanese friends who live abroad, who are in academia, some of them professors. Nobody gave me the chance to explain. Nobody asked, what do you mean you're making a public statement? You're standing with the Israelis. After I spoke at the UN, and I had that honor, I spoke in Geneva because of my friend, Hillel Neuer. Yesterday I spoke in Ranana, and a lady approached me. She said, I'm from Geneva. I'd like to introduce you to Hillel Neuer because you need to speak there. I thought, ma'am, you should check YouTube. Type my name, and because we slayed there. And this happened because I have a lot of energy. Sometimes I need to drink wine to sleep. I can go on forever, and I never lose hope. I know Israel will prevail. And this is my 10th visit to Israel since October 7th. A lot of people ask me, how could you possibly know? Jews, Israelis were doubting the survival of Israel. I told them, I know because I know. And last summer, I brought my son with me for 5 weeks. And he was really nervous. Like, I'm your only child. I'm your favorite human being. You always say, you're taking me to a war zone? And I told him, it'll be fine. Of course, he's my favorite human being. And I know he'll be fine. Just the same way I know that Israel will prevail. And we flew from Germany to Israel with the last flight from Lufthansa before the flights were suspended. And he was so nervous. I'm going to miss my trip, my last trip with school. We're going to Barcelona. I'm going to celebrate my birthday. I told him, you're going to go. He flew out 5 weeks later with the first flight with the Lufthansa just as I booked it, when Lufthansa resumed flying. I don't feel down. It happened a few times since October 7th. I was in Israel when we learned, when the death of Shiri Bibas and her children was confirmed. And I felt horrible. And I don't normally feel down. I'm not a depressive type. But that day, I couldn't get out of bed. And a lot of people were calling me, and I was lying. I'm busy. I was lying. Until 2 in the afternoon, I was in bed. A lady from South Africa, and we were talking about a speaking tour. I told her, I can't take the call. Stop calling me. She doesn't know me in person, and she said, it's hard. It must be hard being in Israel now. And I told her because I was looking at the sky from bed, and that day was gray, it was raining in Jerusalem. I told her, I promise you, the sky is crying in Jerusalem today. But someone called me, and I answered Hillel Noya because he was in Jerusalem as well. So he knows me. And he said, well, Miss Osman, you sound very, very sad. And I told him, I'm not going to lie. I can't. So he said, here's an idea. On Monday, like 3 days after we were talking, he said, on Monday, I have a slot in Geneva at the UN Watch. Do you want it? I jumped at it. I said, oh, yes, you bet I want it.
Your speech was very
I know. This is one of my proudest moments. I destroyed them. When I started speaking, I said I'm half Syrian, half Lebanese, outraged with the war in Gaza. Everybody adjusted their seats. Wait for it. They normally interrupt Hillel, and you have 90 seconds. After 90 seconds, they cut you off. They normally interrupt Hillel. They didn't know who I am, so they let me speak. I took them by surprise. By the time they wanted to speak, I'm gone. Bye. There are moments where we feel up and down, but I want to tell you that I personally think that Israel will prevail. I know it in my heart, the same way I knew my son was going to be safe coming here and back to Germany. There's a lady waving question 1, because there is no Q&A, I was told.
I just wanted to ask you whether you know Bridget Gabriel. Because the case.
I know of her.
You know of her. And so I'm very appreciative about your speech. It's very enlightening and it's more recent. I also wonder if you know anything about Imago. If not, I would love to talk to you about it.
So if I can just, I'm going to thank Rowan, and I'm going to give a little bit more information that will answer your question in a moment. So, wow.
Oh, this is embarrassing. Sit down, please. Please sit down.
Rowan, this says it all. Everybody here is blown away. As we knew we were going to be, as I knew they were going to be. We've watched you for years. We feel like we are friends, close friends. We hear you, we closely follow, and all I can say is thank you from the bottom of our hearts. Thank you, Toda Rabba.
Thank you.
You know, they say that Israel is a light unto the nation, but you are a light unto our people. You are... You came with no expectations, no thank yous, nothing for yourself. You do this out of the goodness of your heart and for what you truly believe in. And for that, there are no words. So again, I want to say we have a small gift for you right here. This is an Israeli artist who made this. I hope you'll enjoy it.
Is it called Emmanuel?
Not exactly.
I have a collection for you.
Not exactly, but I hope you enjoy it. It's a chamsa that is made specifically to bring you everything of the best. Blessings, and may you enjoy it. And when you look at it, I hope you'll think of us and, of course, Israel. So with that in mind, I want to thank everybody here for coming today, for spending time doing this. I know you've taken a lot of time out of your day. And I know that we all have a lot of questions. We'd love this conversation to continue. And so I have good news. It's going to continue. This is part A. And with Rowan's permission, we're going to do a Q&A because we're also, of course, recording, and we have a lot of friends around the world who will also have many questions. And so what we will do, and we will be in touch with you, is we will ask you to come back to either on Zoom or in person. It all depends on Rowan's schedule, but we will continue this. So save your questions. Bring them to us, and I hope to see you back here with Rowan, either on Zoom or in person. And of course, as Sveta said, we hope you'll all consider joining this wonderful, amazing group of the Lion of Judah of Israel. Thank you.
Thank you.
There are still some refreshments here. Please help yourself. And thank you.
I just want to say you ריגשת ממש.
Oh, wow.